Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. Today we are going to be going over my tier list of the starting shooting guards in the NBA right now in the 2020-2021 season. So this list may not be perfect in that there are a few guys on this list who may not be starting in the league right now. A couple guys on this list as well are like borderline shooting guards, borderline point guards. Like, you could make the argument they play point guard as well on their team, but I thought this list was pretty accurate. It's the best one that I found, and yeah, I'm looking forward to making this video. I made one of these videos for the point guard position last week, and I'm thinking I'm going to continue to do one video like this a week until I'm done with all the different positions in the NBA. And then I'm thinking I might branch into just doing some more regular basketball content in addition to the 2K content that I'll be putting out every week. Just try to branch out just a little bit into doing some regular basketball content and not just 2K. So if you enjoy this video and you enjoy this type of video, please make sure you leave a like to the channel if you have not. We're over 800 subscribers now. Thank y'all so much for the support, and we're getting close to that 1,000 mark, so that's what we're grinding for. If y'all haven't hit that subscribe button, please make sure to do so. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. That being said, let's hop right into this video. First name on this list is Gary Harris, and Gary Harris is a guy who I feel like he probably belongs in like the D tier at this point in his career. He doesn't really do that much. He's not super efficient. He had a really good year. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and everybody thought he was going to emerge into this like CJ McCollum types level of scorer with better defense. Like, people thought he was going to suddenly turn into this really elite, not elite, but like an A tier type of shooting guard in possibility, a guy who could potentially be like a borderline all-star and a really big piece for Denver. And then over the last few years, he just really hasn't been consistent enough, is the thing that I'd say about Gary Harris. Not as efficient. His defense isn't as great. He just has not been as impressive in the last couple of years. So for that reason, I'm gonna put him in D tier. D'Angelo Russell, I feel like A is too high for him, I'll say that. I'm thinking B tier is probably right for D'Angelo. If he could stay healthy, there's a possibility he'd be higher, like potentially an A tier, but he's not a great defender. He's a good shooter, and he's a very streaky shooter, but he's not the most efficient. But he is a good scorer, and he's a decent passer as well. He can handle the ball very effectively. He's the type of guy who plays a lot of point guard in the offense that the Timberwolves run. It did the same for the Warriors as well. But the issue with him is twofold: that he can't stay healthy and he's not a great defender. Plus, he plays in the Timberwolves, they're like the worst team in the league. So I really need to see more out of D'Angelo Russell over these next couple of years, because he really kind of emerged with the Nets, and then to a certain extent with the Warriors, and this last year or so since he got traded to the Timberwolves has just not been that great for his career. Moving on, next player on this list is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And to be honest, I have Shai higher than D'Lo for sure. Like, most definitely have Shai higher than D'Lo. I'll still put him in B tier for now. I think Shai was like a borderline all-star this year. Like, I'm not going to spoil my thought process on this, but I'm very tempted to put Shai at A tier. He's made the Thunder into a better team than they were expected to be again this year, just like he did last year. He scores the ball at a high rate. He's a good defender, good passer. He handles the ball, runs the offense effectively. Great free throw shooter. He's super clutch. He's had some really good games this year. Great leader. Like, he just does a lot of the things that you want a high-level shooting guard or point guard to do for your team. He's just a winner. He's a guy who's going to contribute to winning for a very long time in the NBA. I think he's a very good player. I'm tempted to put him in A tier. I'll leave him in B tier for now, but I might move him up. We'll see. Moving on, we got CJ McCollum. I don't know what to do with CJ McCollum. I'm tempted to put him in 8. We'll put him in B tier as well. CJ McCollum is kind of, you know what you're getting with him at this point. Great scorer, streaky scorer. He'll be a guy who may come out and, especially in the playoffs, he seems to perform at a very high level. Put up 30 points a game, like in the playoffs. He'll give you big series like that. Not a great defender. Relatively decently efficient on the volume that he shoots. Great 3-point shooter. He's a very good player. A little bit undersized, the two, but overall, I think he's a very solid player. Borderline all-star a couple times. He and Dame are a really good backcourt. One of the best offensive backcourts in the league, if not the best. Next player on this list, Donna Mitchell. Putting him in A tier. I'm tempted to. He's the way he's playing this year, he's borderline S tier. I'm not going to put him there yet, but Donna Mitchell deserves his A tier spot. Was he a first time? I'm not actually sure if he was a first time All-Star or not. He may have been a first time All-Star this year. maybe second time, I don't remember. But he's had a phenomenal year. The Jazz are arguably the best team in the league at this point in the year. We'll see if that continues into the playoffs. But for the time being, he's scoring at a high level. He's efficient. He's played better defense this year. He plays with a lot of heart. He really battles. I think Donna Mitchell's a great player, great athlete. He's really impressed me this season with his ability to lead lead the Utah Jazz to being a really competitive and potentially like legitimate contenders, which is what they look like right now. So that's very impressive. Klay Thompson. The issue with Klay is that he hasn't been healthy for 2 seasons. And that hurts him. But we're still going to put him in A tier. He would be an S tier, but we don't know how he's going to return. He may return as a B or C tier shooting guard. I hope not. I hope the shooting never leaves, but obviously Klay's one of the greatest shooters of all time. Super high level scorer, catch and shoot, like probably the best role player in the league, also an elite defender. Like for his role as a 3-and-D guy, it gets no better than Klay Thompson. He's been a multi-time All-Star, deservedly so. He averages like 20 points a game, shooting efficiently, shooting ball from the 3. He's a great free-throw shooter, amazing defender. Like Klay Thompson really has the ability to do everything off the ball on the court that you need. Perfect glue guy. He's just a really, really good player. Probably was an S tier shooting guard when he was healthy, and we'll see if he can get back to that hopefully next year, and hopefully he can stay healthy next year, and we'll get to see Klay Thompson of old return. Next player on this list is Paul George. I think Paul George goes S tier. He's had a really great year. Super efficient. He's been a really good shooter from the 3 as well. The Clippers look better than they did last year in that they look like they're very, very, very dangerous threats in the Western Conference. I could see them being a huge threat to the Lakers and the Jazz and the other top teams in the West. And Paul George has had an amazing year. He's always been a good defender. He's always been a super smooth, athletic, offensive player who's always just looked effortless in the way he plays. But in the playoffs last year, he hurt his value and his the public opinion about him a lot. And he's really redeemed that to a certain extent in the regular season this year. And I understand that maybe not as many people have been watching the Clippers as they did last year because of the letdown of the Clippers in the playoffs last year. But Paul George has had an amazing year, and I'm really excited to see how the Clippers are able to perform in the playoffs this year, and hopefully he can redeem himself there. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he goes D tier. I don't think he's like F tier, trash tier, or anything, but he's a decent shooter. He'll create a shot for himself once in a while. He's not a great player at this point. He's just one of those Lakers role players who occasionally have a good game. Hopefully he can sit in the corner, knock down some threes off of passes from like LeBron. Nothing super exceptional to KPP's game. He's a decent defender. Always been kind of a shot checker, not the most efficient player, but he's a solid player, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking KCP probably deserves to go at this point in his career. Devon Booker. My issue with Devon Booker is if I'm going to put him in A tier, I want to put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in A tier because Shai has outplayed Devon Booker this year. In all honesty, if you look at their stats, it's very close. Like you could legitimately make the argument he's outplayed him, especially in the environment that they're playing in. Oh, that's tough. Looking at the rest of this list, and I'm gonna do it. No, I'm not. Okay, Shai is still the number 1 guy in B tier. Don't forget that. But Devon Booker, I think, does deserve a spot in A tier, just because of the team success of the Suns. And whether that's attributed to him or Chris Paul, more so, I'm not entirely sure. But again, Devon Booker was an all-star, deserved to be an all-star, has played at a really high level this year. He started off the season kind of poorly, but he's really been playing better as of late. The Suns are very competitive. They're like the 4 seed, I believe, in the West right now. They've had a really good year so far. They're fun to watch. Chris Paul and Devon Booker together just play really well. Booker's one of those guys who could get hot on any given night and drop 50. We've seen him do it before, even in back-to-back games. He's absolutely a stud. One of the best, smoothest offensive players in the league. His defense still needs work, and his playmaking for others isn't the best. But he's a top tier, well, not a top tier, but he's a second to top tier shooting guard. He's had a really nice year, and I think he's a really good player overall. Buddy Hield's a C-tier guy. He's not a great defender. He's a phenomenal shooter, one of the better shooters in the league. But his efficiency can be inconsistent. He has a tendency to knock down some clutch shot for the Kings, but the Kings also suck, and he's like their third best player or something. He's a decent player. I think C tier is probably where he deserves to go, to be honest. Karis LeVert, same thing. He was playing like a B tier shooting guard when he was on the Nets, but with the injury and then coming back on the Pacers, I'm going to put him in C tier for now. Not injury. Prayers up to Karis, obviously, hoping everything's going well with his recovery, with the whole tumor, the cancerous tumor. I believe, was it kidney? I forget where it was, but obviously prayers up for Karis. Hopefully he gets better. His recovery is the biggest priority right now before anything else, but hopefully, from what I'm being told, he may return for the Pacers relatively soon. It's possible he could be back by the playoffs for sure. So I'm interested to see what type of impact he can make and how rusty he is on the court. Can he be that guy in Brooklyn who can take over games and be a primary scorer at times? Because if he can, I think he probably deserves to be higher up on this tier list. But for now, I'm going to put him in C tier, and I think he is higher in C tier than Buddy Hield for sure, though. Kevin Huerter, he's D tier. He hits threes, plays some defense. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the Hawks, but the Hawks the Hawks have a lot of guys. A lot of guys who play that 2 or the 3 and play that wing position, and yet they just don't seem like they're improving that much as a team. They're like a borderline playoff team at best. Just fired their head coach. I need to see more out of the Hawks, and I need to see more out of Kevin Huerter to move him up this list. Devontae Graham. I don't like Devontae Graham, but I can't put him in F tier. I think he's just inefficient. He's not a great scorer. He doesn't do anything super effectively for his team. I don't know. Devontae Graham is not impressed me. He's a good 3-point shooter, but he's inefficient. He has obviously games where he gets hot, but he's not a good defender. He's small. He's not a great passer. I think he's like the 3rd best guard on the Hornets. Like he's not better than LaMelo or Terry Rozier. Even Malik Monk has been out playing him as of late. I'm not impressed with Devontae Graham's play these last couple of or this season really, and even the second half of last season. I know he started off last season super hot, but second half of last season he cooled off for sure, and I'm just not super impressed with Devontae Graham's game. Tyler Hero, another D tier. I'd be lying if I put him higher than D tier. I know he has a lot of hype. He hasn't had a great year. I need to see playoff Tyler Hero come back. He's got a lot of swag, obviously. People love Tyler Hero. He's fun to watch. Very energetic guy. But again, I don't think he deserves to be much higher than this D tier as of now. Evan Fournier. Ooh, is Evan Fournier B or C tier? This one's kind of tough. I'm looking at this list. I think Evan Fournier is a C tier guy at this point. He's a good scorer on the Magic, but like I just can't put him on the same level as a guy like SGA or CJ McCollum. He's a great scorer. He's become a solid defender. Why are my emails popping up? I apologize. But yeah, I think Evan Fournier is a good overall player. I think he's a great scorer, solid defender. The Magic still kind of suck. He's their second option behind Vucevic. But he's really Magic played the Mavericks a couple weeks ago, and like a month before that, watched both of those games. I was impressed with Evan Fournier. I think he's a good player. He attacks the rim well. He's a good shooter. He's a decent passer. Even I think Evan Fournier is a solid NBA player. I like him a lot. Brad Beal. S tier. Brad Beal's had an amazing year. The Wizards have been playing much better as of late. You could argue Brad Beal's playing like the best scorer in the league right now. Like, is he the best scorer in the league? Probably not, but he's a great scorer. Really fun to watch. He plays hard. Except for that week where you were like, is he going to get traded? Because the Wizards were really, really struggling. And then since then, it seems like they've kind of figured it out. That win against the Nets seemed to springboard them to playing better. Him and Russ together have been fun to watch as of late. And I think Bradley Beal's playing as one of the best players in the league. Totally deserves his all-star spot. He's averaging 33 points a game, something like that. Something pretty impressive. And I'm happy for Bradley Beal. He didn't really get the respect that he deserved last year, and I think he's getting it a lot more this year because people are really realizing how good and how consistent he can be as a primary scorer and an elite scoring option in the NBA. So, yeah, I think Bradley Beal's definitely S tier for me personally. Tim Hardaway Jr. is C tier. He's a good C tier. Even these guys at C tier, these C tier guys are good NBA players, above average NBA players who can really win games for your team at nights. There's a lot of really good shooting guards in this league. Looking at this list, there's a lot of very talented guys playing the shooting guard position. Like, as a Mavericks fan, I watch Tim Hardaway every night. Every time the Mavericks play, basically. And he's one of those guys, he knocks down open shots. He knocks down tough shots. He attacks the rim. He's got decent athleticism. He's a above average defender. He does a lot for you on the basketball court. He's become a more efficient player. His shot selection is better than it used to be. He'll still hit a couple shots in a row and pull up from 30 feet. Terrible shot and miss occasionally. He gets to where he's feeling himself and will shoot some bad shots, but he's fun to watch. I mean, he's a good player. I like Tim Hardaway Jr. a lot. I think he brings energy to the team, shot making, shot creation, when guys are off and aren't having good nights. I like Tim Hardaway a lot. I think he's a good NBA player, and I think C tier is probably where he deserves to be. James Harden is best shooting guard in the league. I don't think it's close. He's been playing like an MVP candidate recently. I don't love Harden, but I think he's the best shooting guard in the league. Like, I don't know how much I really need to talk about James Harden. He's an elite scorer. He's been efficient since he went to Brooklyn. He's a great passer. He's a much better defender than people give him credit for. I don't think he's an elite defender or anything like that, but he is an elite post defender for a guard. I'll say that. Perimeter wise, maybe not quite as much. He's played like more of a clutch player recently, which has been an issue with Harden in years past, where he doesn't hit clutch shots consistently. But he's been playing that clutch role for the Nets effectively, and the Nets look like the championship favorites at this point. And I have to give Harden credit for that. Admittedly, he's playing with KD and Kyrie, and they're still stacking the team more with Blake Griffin, and who knows if they'll get Andre Drummond. And like, they're building the super team of all super teams, but at the same time, you have to give Harden credit because he's played his role very effectively on the Nets, and he is already a top shooting guard in the league, if not the best, probably the best still in Houston. Like, I gotta give Harden credit. He's a great player. He deserves all the credit that he has earned. Dillon Brooks, you suck. He shoots like 30-something%, low 30s from three. Doesn't give you much on the defensive end. Not a great passer, not a great defender. Doesn't really handle the ball much and create offense for others. Like, what does Dillon Brooks do for you on the court? Every time I watch a Grizzlies game, I'm like, why is this guy starting and playing 30 minutes a game? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why Dillon Brooks is a starting caliber NBA player, in all honesty. Like, no hate on him. I just don't see it. Whenever I watch a Grizzlies game, he just doesn't do much for me. His stats are not impressive. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking he is right now. Eric Bledsoe. Is he a D tier? Why is Eric Bledsoe listed as a shooting guard? Does he play shooting guard? I guess, do him and Lonzo start together in the Pelicans? So I don't see Eric Bledsoe as really a shooting guard, to be honest with you. But low end C, he's still a good defender. I think he's better than all of these guys as of right now. He's never been a good shooter, though. He's never performed that well in the playoffs. He's a very low end C tier player, I think, on this list. Borderline D tier at this point in his career. Like, Eric Bledsoe a couple of years ago was giving you a really good amount on the Bucks, but he's never been a great shooter. He's always been a solid defender, good athlete, relatively good passer, but the Pelicans aren't great. He's not really emerged into any sort of specific impressive role in the Pelicans or anything like that. Like, I don't know. Eric Bledsoe's kind of on the downturn of his career. Hasn't done a ton as of recent. Derek White, you are. I feel like I put him in F tier, and that probably is deserved. He doesn't do much. He's a decent player. Like, he's a decent player. He's kind of a role player. He's the type of guy that I would expect to be more of a bench guard than a starter. I will admit I haven't watched a ton of the Spurs, so as of late I'm not sure how much of an improvement he's made, but his stats aren't super impressive. He's never been a great three-point shooter. I don't feel like he gives you much above average on the court. Like, I don't know what he does at an above average level. I know he had a great playoff series, I believe, against the Nuggets a couple of years ago, but since then I don't think he's done anything really truly exceptional or that warrants anything higher than F tier, in my opinion. Sorry, Derek. RJ Barrett is probably like somewhere in the C tier, like after Karis LeVert, Buddy Hield. He's like on that level. He's played better this year than his rookie season. He's really seems to have improved over the offseason and over the COVID period, I guess. He has definitely played like a better shooting guard this year. He's become more efficient. And the Knicks are a better team. I think he's playing his role. He can create shots for others. He's become a relatively good three-point shooter as well. I think he's shooting something like 45% from the field, which is definitely an improvement over last year. He's not a great defender by any means, but he does rebound the ball, I think, pretty well for a guard. And I'm pretty impressed, honestly, with RJ Barrett's improvement. And I think over the next couple of years, if he can continue to improve, he could be a borderline all-star player in 2 or 3 years. I don't think he'll ever be a superstar, but he's played at a very solid level this year, and hopefully he can continue to improve, because we need to not forget that he's only in his second season. He still has a lot of room for improvement. Danny Green, every time I might be underselling Danny Green a little bit at this point in his career, because I know he's still a decent defender, but he doesn't he shoot every time? I feel like every time I watch a Sixers game, he's shooting the ball inefficiently, missing threes, doesn't do anything else on the offensive end besides shoot threes. I don't even think I think he's shooting like 40% and not that good from 3. He's a relatively good defender still, but he doesn't create much for anybody else on the offensive end. He doesn't score the ball at a super high level. I'm not really sure. Danny Green's a role player at this point in his career. A couple of years ago on the Raptors, he was a very valuable piece, and on that Raptors team, he's probably a C-tier player. At this point in his career, I don't know if I think he's the best player in F-tier, but I still think he's an F-tier player, unfortunately. Sorry, Danny. Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet's a B-tier guy, I think. I would consider putting him A-tier. He's had some really, really good games. He's a great scorer. He plays defense better than maybe any other super short guy in the league. I think he's probably the best defender at 6 foot and under in the league. He plays hard. He has a lot of energy. I like Fred VanVleet a lot. I think he makes the Raptors better. I think if he were to leave the Raptors in a couple of years, I think whatever team he would go to, he would continue to make better. I like him a lot. I think he's a really, really solid level NBA player. At this point, I think there's a good chance that he'll make an All-Star team or two throughout his career, and potentially has a chance to improve more. If the Raptors trade Kyle Lowry, he's going to get the ball in his hands even more. He'll have opportunities to up his scoring numbers, his assist numbers. He's going to play that point guard position a lot more for the Raptors. And I like Fred VanVleet a lot. I could see him being a borderline All-Star next year. Zach LaVine's A-tier. I don't think anybody's really debating that at this point. One of the better scorers in the league. Again, he's one of those guys like Devon Booker and Paul George who's just so smooth with the ball. Unbelievable athlete. Has won the dunk contest twice, deservedly so. Should he have won that one against Aaron Gordon? Maybe not. But that doesn't really matter for his ranking, to be honest. He's been scoring the ball at such a high level. He's become such a good three-point shooter. He hits tough shots. He plays on a bad Bulls team and yet puts up good stats at a pretty efficient level. Great stats, honestly, at a pretty efficient level. He deserved his All-Star spot this year. And I'm glad he's gotten more recognition around the league, because Zach LaVine's been hooping for the last 2 or 3 years. And it took until this year for people to really notice how good he's been. And he seems like he improves every year. I think he deserves his All-Star spot this year, and I think for the next few years, we're also going to see Zach LaVine still as one of those guys who's going to be an All-Star game participant almost every season, and hopefully he can find his way onto a good team, or the Bulls could improve to a point that we'll get to see him in the playoffs at some point throughout his career. Kevin Porter Jr., he's been playing great in the G League, but in the NBA so far in his career, he's not been impressive. He had that whole issue with the Cavs. I forget what happened there specifically, where he basically got released, and then went to the G League, and he just got called up from the G League. But we'll have to see how he plays in the NBA once the NBA starts up again. Can he be more efficient? Can he move himself out of the F tier? I don't know. He's still young. He has a lot of potential. He's been playing really good in the G League. I'm hoping he can figure it out, because I like Kevin Porter Jr. a lot. But as of right now, I don't think I can put him any higher than F tier. DeLon Wright's D tier. He's kind of upper D tier-ish. I don't think Gary Harris is the best. These rankings, by the way, just to make it clear, are not in order of who's the best player at this position, at this tier, to the worst player at this tier. I did that kind of with James Harden. I put him at the top because I think he's the best S tier guard. But DeLon Wright's a D tier guy. I think he's probably one of the better D tier guys. He's one of the best, probably the best defender, arguably, at least in the D tier. Never been a great three-point shooter or super efficient, but he does pass the ball well. He rebounds well. He scores at a decent-ish level. He's been playing on the Pistons this year, and the Pistons suck, but he's gotten some more opportunity. He's done a decent job to, he fills up the stat sheet sometimes. On good nights, he'll have some really nice stat stuff and nights where you'll see him put up 16, 7, and 8. That's a pretty solid stat line, and he's doing that at a decent level. So I think DeLon Wright's a solid player. I think when he was on the Mavericks, he wasn't great. He does seem to have improved a bit, and I think, in all honesty, if you can get DeLon Wright as a bench guard on your team, he can run your offense effectively, he can defend, rebound, pass, I don't think he's a great starter, but I think he's solid. D tier seems pretty fair for me. Victor Oladipo, he would have been A tier before his Achilles injury. Since his Achilles injury, I think he's a B tier guy. No offense to Victor Oladipo, but he's not super efficient. He's never been an elite 3-point shooter, and I don't think he's gotten there at this point in his career. He deserves to be B tier though. He's a great athlete. He's still clutch. He knocks down clutch shots. He'll be having a bad night. He'll hit a tough shot in the fourth quarter to win a game or force overtime. He's done that several times throughout this season, and well, throughout his career in general. And I like Victor Oladipo a lot. Like, he's a good guy. If I didn't know, he sings, and his singing is really impressive as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Victor Oladipo. I think he deserves his B tier spot for sure. Jrue Holiday, again, he's on the Bucks now, and I think he's become more underrated because he's playing with Chris Middleton and Giannis. He's the third best player, and he's not a flashy guy, but he deserves his spot in B tier. Again, great defender, one of the better defenders in the league at the guard position. He can shoot the ball, he can pass, he can score. Jrue Holiday's a guy who can give you everything you need on a basketball court. He's one of those perfect role player type guys who's going to help your team win. He scores the ball at a solid level. He's pretty darn efficient. He can shoot at a decently efficient level as well. Good passer, solid rebounder at the point guard, shooting guard position. I like Jrue Holiday a lot. I think he's a really solid player, and I think he deserves his B tier spot. Always been a good player, borderline all-star type guy. Marcus Smart. Is he the best tier player in C tier, or is he a B tier guy? I don't know. For the time being, I'm going to put him as the best player in C tier. I think Marcus Smart is the most, Marcus Smart is the perfect glue guy. When Marcus Smart plays, the Celtics are a much better team. He hits threes. He's become a really good 3-point shooter. He's an exceptional defender, exceptional leader, plays incredibly hard. You will never watch Marcus Smart play and be like, this guy could give me more. He gives you everything he can every game that he plays. He's a great leader. His teammates love him. Marcus Smart is beloved in Boston by the fans. Everybody loves Marcus Smart, and that's because he deserves to be loved. Great 3-point shooter, amazing defender, plays super hard. I don't want to repeat myself too much and sound too repetitive, but I love Marcus Smart. I think as a role player, he's the perfect type of guy that you need to be a contender in the league. You need a guy like Marcus Smart who can play that gritty role, knock down tough shots occasionally, battle on offense and battle on defense, give you everything. He gets every loose ball, all that stuff. And I think that's big for an NBA team. So I think for that reason, Marcus Smart definitely deserves his spot at C tier, and he's even borderline B tier when he's playing at his best. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. This is the tier list that I came up with. If you have any issues with your guys and where I put them, obviously feel free to let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to debate with y'all why I put certain players where and what y'all think. And there's a good chance that I'll put certain teams' guys lower than they personally would put their guys. But that's kind of just the way that these tier lists are. My voice is kind of hoarse. I'm sorry. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it. Leave me a subscription on the channel. We're on that grind to 1,000. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video and what you thought of my rankings. And I'll be back with another video very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.